morning, all. Let me just recognize excellencies, colleagues, friends. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I want to begin with a bold statement. We meet today at a moment when climate and nature are no longer environmental side notes. They are what we call meta-systemic risk. And I think Alan has just reminded us of that. All the SDGs are linked, and therefore all risks are linked. Therefore, the bedrock of the risk-return incentives framework that drives society today needs to be totally reimagined and thought of within a systems resilience perspective. That is the only way we can have a planet built on resilience. Therefore, the old playbook of lend, rebuild, repeat cannot and never will deliver resilience fast enough or fair enough. And so what we need today is a different way of approaching the problem. Welcome to the Nature Bank. The Nature Bank, therefore, is a new multilateral institution. I don't use the word bank anymore because it is a movement. So it's a new institution that turns verified ecosystem services into investable cash flows. So countries can finance resilience without new debt. Without new debt. And that's because the market that sustains life can no longer be left invisible as it is today. So what is structurally different in the bank? First, our mandate. The cornerstone of what we do, we treat nature as a productive asset, not as a cost center. We move beyond GDP, and we value protection, restoration, and avoided loss as real economic outputs. We create structured partnerships to facilitate not projects, but mission-oriented sustainable goals. Second, our governance. We adhere to sovereignty first, debt last. For us, ecologically vulnerable countries hold decisive voice. Ecologically vulnerable countries hold decisive voice. Integrated investment programs, not projects, programs, are curated from national priorities. And our balance sheet is used to de-risk and catalyze, not to push more sovereign debt on top of what you already have. And the way we do that is by treating risk return not as individual elements, but as systems concepts. And we integrate capacity building as a mitigator of the probability of loss. So if you reduce loss, then you have an automatic de-risker in everything that you invest in. Third, we have a model of a data-to-deal factory. We fuse nature, data, and sovereignty end to end. We measure baselines, we price outcomes, we ring-fence community benefits, we use guarantees, insurance, and outcome payments to crowd in private and philanthropic capital at scale. That is where you come in. Crowd in private and philanthropic capital at scale. So how do we blend nature, data, and sovereignty in this end-to-end framework? Let me demonstrate this with a concrete example of what we can call a coastal protection investment program, not a seabed, or individual project, a coastal protection program. So how does that occur? Nature. A government identifies a mangrove reef corridor, a nature-based solution, that reduces storm surge. It can help protect fisheries and aligns with its nationally determined contributions and disaster risk plans. It's the government side. We use data, whether it is satellite, LiDAR, or in situ sensors, to establish verifiable nature positive baselines. Nature positive baselines for blue carbon, biodiversity, and avoided loss. And what does that do? It translates to lower insurance claims, fewer disaster days, and protected infrastructure. This can now be fed into, because we have a data as now an asset with value, into a nature asset registry. And that nature asset registry will be now governed and monitored by specific protocols, which would have international standing, both from a standards, a compliance, and a monitoring regulatory framework. The third element, sovereignty. We create a country-owned special purpose vehicle with a community golden share. So we can ensure the monies can go back, and that country would own, the SPV would own the assets rights, the rights of the nature that we would have created. And then we create structured investment instruments, structured finance instruments to now hold and embed those revenue earning contracts. The Nature Bank can enter this by providing a guarantee and an outcomes contract. Local MSMEs and cooperatives can deliver the restoration and the monitoring, thereby blending not only the regeneration of nature with the finance that it provides with the government goals that can benefit communities all in one package. So how does the money actually flow? We might say that sounds a wonderful idea, but how does the money flow? Let's begin by noting insurers will pay for reduced risk. And that's what I've said, it generates reduced risk. A nature preserving levy can contribute. In some cases, a tourism levy can contribute. Corporates can pre-purchase verified outcomes, such as resilience or reef credits, because they know the bank is managing that. Philanthropy can anchor with first loss capital as a junior tranche. The sovereign, therefore, does not need to take new debt. The SPV, which has the rights of the asset owned by the sovereign, can pay for local jobs and maintenance, while therefore the state benefits via performance-based dividends and resilient savings. Country ownership, importantly, country ownership is present at the start because it's designed of national priorities. It's in the middle because we must have approvals and design at one and the same time. And it's also at the end because governance and benefits flow. And so it is not about us doing, it's about government leading with national priorities for the benefit of country. So how do we mobilize then this private and philanthropic capital without deepening debt, which is a key element? I think the key here is we need tools that, one, will pay for outcomes, will transfer risk, or will absorb first loss, and the ability to structure instruments from a suite of those tools, including, and I'll give you some of the things that we can absorb, a first loss catalytic facility where philanthropic capital takes initial risk so your pension funds and family offices can enter senior tranches. A guarantee first, debt last option, where guarantees can sit beneath project cash flows at the SPV level, unlocking private equity and commercial risk appetite without sovereign borrowing. Parametric and performance insurance, with rapid payouts where winds, waves, or rainfall cross thresholds. Premium discounts can be tied to verifiable ecosystem health. Integrated capacity building, where we mainstream capacity building as an endogenous component of all, underline all, investment programs, reducing the risk of failure, and by creating a foundation for innovation and sustainability over time. Nature performance contracts, where we pay for success. We commit to buy a stream of verified outcomes. Performance contracts structure repricing of risk from verifiable nature positive outcomes. And investors finance CapEx today and are repaid from outcomes, not from taxes. Forward purchase agreements and outcome clubs, where corporates and family offices can commit contractually to multi-year purchases of verified resilience and biodiversity outcomes, creating bankable demand. And if and only if debt is ever used, it is ring-fenced, non-recourse at the SPV with diversified revenues as the base, not on the sovereign balance sheet. Else we never solve the debt problem that we started with in the first place. So we may ask, and Sergio mentioned this, what is the next 10 months looking like? So we have a few targets that we'd like to be able to share. Governance and membership, where founding governance is seated, at least about 15 member states on board, with, importantly, country ownership protocols established and laid out, and the appropriate safeguards built into those protocols. Second, a pipeline to close. Let's target at least 3 flagship transactions. And I can think of coastal defense, watershed restoration, and climate smart agriculture as 3 things we can aim for, mobilizing at least 500 million with equally at least 70% non-sovereign capital. 3, a nature asset registry that is live. Let's at least aim to have it operating in, let's say, 8 countries, with importantly, third-party verification and transparent impact dashboards tied to fiscal and risk metrics, and not just regular risk, systems risk metrics. So how can you engage? 1, I would suggest commit to joining the First Loss Circle with 5 to 25 million tranches in the catalytic facility. Agree to sign at the right moment forward outcomes MOUs for multi-year offtake of resilience and biodiversity outcomes. Help co-design a country pilot, a government letter, 90-day data to deal sprint with our team, and contribute data and technology in sensing, in MRV, risk models into this open registry. That's a call directly to you. And so in closing, we cannot insure the planet after the fact. We must capitalize resilience before the storm by valuing the living systems that keep our planet habitable. The Nature Bank exists for that singular purpose, to translate nature's value into dignified prosperity without new debt burdens. So if you lead a government, identify your pilot and sit with our team. If you steward capital, anchor first loss or pre-purchase outcomes. If you build technology, bring your data and protocols to the registry. Let us therefore unlock the market that sustains life and let it sustain livelihoods, sovereignty, and peace. Thank you.